1 minute. Five, four, three, two, one, zero.
What's up, family? What's going on with you? Welcome to the Well, and it's your boy, Pastor Ramon, aka Pastor Ray, along with
Minister 3J, also known as 3J, Jehovah God, Jesus Christ, and Justice. Without the three, we can't be free. What's up, Bones?
What's good, brother?
Yeah, it's been like how long?
Yo, it's been a couple of weeks, man.
But we've been so active.
We have been really active, man.
Woo!
Man. But I don't know about you, but I am definitely glad to be back.
Yo, crazy. Yeah, I wanted to be back last week, but you know.
Listen, we have had a couple of things that have kept us from being with you all, but we are here now.
Yeah.
We're excited. Listen, this is Thursday, May 13th, 2021, and you are definitely watching The Well live. It is our encounter for the month, and this is our Taboo series.
Taboo.
Like
the game?
Like the game.
But with no buzzer, and we don't have we have the timer and all that.
Well, listen, this is things that people don't necessarily want to talk about. I just want to say hello. I got a couple things to run through, but to Helen, who's on,
Miss Helen,
Miss Nikki, who's on,
Miss Nikki,
Manika, who's on, brother Sean. Man, it's good to see Sean. He's over at the State's Attorney's Office.
What's up,
man,
Sean?
right there. Listen, I'm just glad to have you guys on today. Listen, y'all ready for this conversation? If you are ready, just type yeah in the chat, man.
Let's play.
Listen, we're talking about to curse or not to curse. That is the question. That is the question. So before we get into it, what is the Well? The Well is a faith community, a creative arts and faith community that is built on seeking justice, seeking out Jesus.
Yeah.
We believe that you encounter the Well, that you become the Well, and then you emerge and share the Well.
Like
you know what I'm saying?
Like
so
that.
it's like it can be synonymous with you encounter love, become love, emerge and share love. You encounter Jesus, you become more like Jesus, you emerge and share Jesus. We're all about just encountering God and seeing God in a different light, because we believe that we ain't got to preach to you all the time, but it's more about having the conversation. Our whole format is based on having the conversation.
Yeah.
Listen, we hope that everything that we do leads you down the path of the 5 P's. 3J, do you know what those 5 P's are?
5 P's. That's passion, purpose, promise, peace, and power.
Yeah, that's it, bro.
That's it right there, man.
Everything that we do, everything we talk about should lead you down the path of those 5 P's.
Yeah.
So we hope and encourage you to do that. Hey, Mama Annie, I see you. That's my lady right there. Listen, we also want to just make sure that you take a moment, like this post, comment, let us know that you're here, as so many people have already done. And then share the post. Don't forget to share the post. Share it to your network. Share it to your groups that you're in. Take the link on YouTube and copy the link and send it to your buddy. Say, look, if you aren't catching this, you got to catch this on Thursday nights. This is the most realest, livest thing. So anyway, it is thing. I don't know. Just go with it. Just flow with it. Look, we're just happy to be back with y'all. But I don't want to waste too much time on this panel. Well, I want to give a shout out to Amplify Network, which always brings us live on Thursdays. Our super producer, Jackie, who's in the background, we call her the voice of God because she is controlling and manipulating all things that you see. You don't see her, but you know she's there.
Thank you, God.
Hey, listen. Thank you, God. And my brother, Terrence Sam, who's off on the Amplify. Hey, Jackie, can you do us a favor and bring us on in to meet up with our other co-host who's on with us and our special guest for the day?
Yeah. Look at that squad right there.
Hey, listen,
Look at them
this
brothers
look
like-
on Brennan's face, I can't.
Hey, look, Brennan look like he ready for war.
Hey,
What's
listen,
good,
let's
fellas?
just go around the circle. You guys know who Brennan is, but Brennan, you know, go ahead and greet the people, and then Pastor Reverend Mike, I'm going to ask you just to say a few words about who you are, where you're from, and let the people know that as well. We'll start off with our every Thursday co-host. Brennan, go ahead and share something with the people, man.
Listen, black at it again. We black at it to win. I'm just happy to be here with the
Hey.
fellas, man.
Yeah,
That's it, man. That's it.
Hey, be back, yo.
We have no other than a good brother of mine who hails from the Baltimore, Washington area. He is authentic, real. I think I put down in it. He is outspoken. He is a truth hero. He is justice provoking. He is an amazing young brother who graduated from seminary just about 3 years ago. But he's been making moves and shaking up dynamics all over the country, I think. I think if you don't know this man, then you go to meet him tonight. But Pastor Reverend Michael Carrington, why don't you share a little bit about yourself and who you are, where you're from, and what you're doing out here in these streets, man?
Well, hi. Thank you all for inviting me. But my name's Mike. For the sake of this conversation, just call me Mike. Go ahead and keep it there. I'm the pastor of Eastern United Methodist Church. It's one interesting fact is this is the church I grew up in. That's interesting. So let's see that whole full circle. Well, I'm the youngest that served in this role at my home church. So it is interesting to see, you know, those who babied me and punished me, and now I'm pastoring. So yeah, and that's interesting. And so I do want to say, they knew me when I was bad, and they know me when I was good. So, you know, they know me, you know, like how God knows you, all of you. So this is a community that knows me. So, yeah.
Man, that's got to be interesting, bro. Like, I mean, you know, it's the folks that, you know, they say it takes a community. I don't know if you were a child that got whipped growing up, but like the folks that whipped you are now like the folks that serve under your leadership.
Yeah. So I'm walking a very thin line.
Absolutely.
Hey, listen, I got a question for you, man. What is, so since you've been there, is there like just a story that, you know, one of the things that just stands out that you're like,
do not get him in trouble.
you know, well, not in trouble,
do
but
not
like
get him in
one of
trouble.
the days you were just like, I can't believe I just had to say that or do that, or like, I can't believe that just happened. Is there a moment like that?
Brother, don't fall into his trick. Be very cautious about what you say. Don't fall into his game, man. Go. Nah, that's foul. Go ahead.
I mean, to answer your question directly, the answer would be yes, without any details. I mean, it's just coming. So, yes.
Got you. No, it's cool. It's cool. Listen, we are talking about tonight, to curse or not to curse. It is one of those topics that, and this is the whole series. We're doing taboo things that the church does not always like to address or does not always get as real with. And one of those things is, you know, cursing, curse words, swear words. You know, and so I guess my first question for me is, you know, is it wrong to curse?
I think everybody said that. Like, how do we answer that?
I can go first.
Is it wrong to curse?
Is it a sin to curse? Let's ask that question. Is it a sin to curse?
I think it's wrong to cuss somebody out.
Okay, that's more different. Now I'm gonna answer. I'm walking a thin line here. All right, so
Okay.
I got people watching.
The folks that raised you are watching.
Yeah. And listen, and I agree, and it was traditional and conservative, you know. So now,
Yeah, they gonna learn you if you step out wrong, bro.
so is cursing a sin? So I would have to say for me, no. based off of my understanding of sin. Here's the baby. My understanding of sin. So y'all gotta forgive me. Here you go. No, there we go. There you go.
Listen, man, Black fathers, I love it, bro. Let's go. Shout out to the Black fathers, you know.
I completely understand.
So my understanding of sin is no. So cursing is not a sin. Now, can cursing become a sin? My answer to that would be yes. Because what's sin to me is not sin to you. So the question is really not about cursing. The question is really about sin, right? Because when you make it about cursing, then you categorize sin to be a laundry list, that's not the case here. So sin in my understanding, or in its rawest form, is that which separates you from God. Okay. So the question then becomes,
hey, you got your amen corner right next to you, bro.
Right.
I think the question then probably becomes, can cursing become a sin? And for some people, the answer is yes. Because if it separates you from God, right, then that could be sin. And I will argue, and this is the thin line I'm walking, no matter how traditional I grew up, is that this has been communicated on Wednesdays inside the church. This has been communicated on Thursdays inside the church. You can ask your grandma and aunties when she got her best friend and so-and-so came to get 2 pieces of chicken. They're saying some words back there. Now, ask, if you don't believe me, ask Steve Harvey.
Right. Sister Odell.
So it becomes sinful, thank you. It becomes sinful. It becomes for the traditional church members, right? It becomes sinful to some when it's used in the sanctuary.
Okay.
That's good.
Right. But do I think sin, cursing is a sin? No. Can it become a sin? Theologically, I will answer yes.
Yeah. Brennan, you were going to say something.
That's a well-rounded answer, because mine was pretty much the same. I think in a lot of ways what has happened is the church has, in a sense, made it a sin, or kind of forced people to sin because they would go outside of what the church has labeled something as. But and I think in itself, cursing, no, is not a sin. And I don't particularly believe that cursing is all around bad. I think it's different, and I think it's a different thing that some people historically have had trouble with, and we'll discuss some of those troubles later, and where I think some of that comes from. But I think it's a different form of expression. Yep.
I know. I see what you're saying, and I agree with you 100%. But I'm contradicting myself. I also disagree with you. I agree.
I love it.
Why I agree with you that it is a language. However, I disagree. It's not different. It has always been a form of it has always been our language for so long. Because to say that it's different is to say that the opposite of up is opposite of, is different. That's not the case. It's always been around. We just used it in possibly a safer way. Or
right.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think different probably isn't the right word, but it's like an alternative, not necessarily like up, down, left, right, but it's an alternative way to say something. And I think that I mean, when we look at church culture and what's happened when alternatives have been approached or brought into church, we understand that the relationship with the church that the church has had with some alternatives of ways of doing things, of expression, of even language, and so I think that by its nature, no, cursing isn't a sin, but I think the church, all of us, have played a part in causing some people to sin through cursing.
I just want to read this comment. Jeffrey Banks, who's on YouTube, he says, I love it because, you know, if you're proper, you're saying cursing. But if you're black, you're saying cussing. You know what I'm saying? What y'all doing? Stop all that cussing over there. Miss Nikki says cursing can be a sin when you use it to speak against others. Speaking curses upon someone else, like when you're angry, which is why the Bible says not to sin in your anger or to be slow to speak, in her opinion.
Okay, that's what.
See, that's a Miss Nikki. I think I got to challenge that one because I think that's an often misused kind of like the word. I think and this goes into the history of it. Like the words we know as common curse words will label curse words to fit some of those scriptures.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not necessarily that by me saying, you know, one of those words, one of those 4-letter words, that I'm cursing someone, but it was labeled as that and has been taught like that through the church.
Mm-hmm.
And it started with King James.
Now, I don't want to put words in Miss Nikki's mouth, right?
Right.
I don't want to put words in her mouth. But, and correct me, Miss Nikki, if I am. Now, the first thing I see is the problem of what she said, is that cursing becomes, you know, a sin when you speak it against others. Well, theologically, for churchgoers, that ought to be a problem when God cursed the serpent. Right? That could be a problem. So now, you know, we that's a problem. Now, what I think Miss Nikki is trying to say, right, is that, you know, cursing can become a sin, right, when you are speaking it against your brother, harm that caused him or her to be harmed, right, and then theologically I have a problem with that because a cursing still would not be a sin. It's the harm that you've done against your brother.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask this question. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
That's why I said I don't know what you meant by.
Yeah. Miss Nikki is our commentator. She holds down that box.
She starts.
But she says, I get what you mean by that because that would be defined by the scripture that mentions profane language. Yes. What I'm saying is when you use cursing to cause harm to your brother.
Yeah, yeah. I thought.
But then, but the trouble with that is any words can be used to cause harm.
Absolutely.
Well, you're absolutely right. You're right because
so that's where I push on that just a little bit because, you know, I could use hello to say hi. I mean, to cause harm to someone. Like if you really don't like me and I know you don't like me and I just come up to you every time just to say hello because I know you don't like me, that could cause you harm. And hello isn't necessarily a curse word. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we can use any word to cause harm, and that's where it's like that the profane language versus the cursing. I think we got to draw that line as something that, you know. I mean, listen, this is going to be a robust conversation. I love to have it too.
I love it. Well, so let me take this and I'm gonna read what Sean Michael Wilson says, and I'm gonna ask a question. But
Sean I was just about to mention that too. I love that comment.
He says cursing is vulgar language as we know. If it causes confusion, he says, is that of God?
That's a good
one. Well, so here's my problem with that, right? This is my problem with that. If oh God, I'm gonna get in trouble. If it causes confusion with God, right? Then God also is the problem too when we think about the Tower of Babel, when he caused them to speak many different languages.
And yep.
Right. So then that's a problem too. Because if it's vulgar language, because the reality of the matter is if you and I talking to a person that speaks Swahili and we're speaking English, right? Then we can't interpret anything going on. So the language become provocative because we're trying to make sense of what's really going on here, right? So
And see,
that,
hold on, but that even speaks to the origin of curse words. Like the origin of the main words that we know are of Dutch and German dialect. And the English church made them curse words because it was from that dialect and it wasn't their own. The English language was more fluffery and sugar coated and you know, like, hey, everybody bring it in and give us a hug. And the Dutch and German dialect was more direct, straight to the point. And this is, you know, it is what it is. And because that dialect wasn't accepted by King James and the English church, they made those words curse words. So again, it kind of lends back into that Tower of Babel. If those different languages weren't there, we wouldn't have curse words. So is it God's fault? If that's what it, like, if we follow that line, then the confusion came from God. So then, like, are we saying, you know, that's where some of that theological and some of, like, even myself, some of what I've been taught about language, curse words, and, you know, through the church and things like that is like is really challenging once you really dive into where this stuff comes from and you look at reality of, you know, like basically it was you know, you talk proper English, I speak Ebonics is curse words.
yeah, you know, and that's true. So when we really use the word curse words, we're really talking an alternative language here, right? You know, is equivalent to those who quote unquote talk white. There's no such thing, right? You know, there's this whole dichotomy of this new, you know, things of that nature. And so when you walk into the hood, right, you don't hear hello sir, ma'am, how you doing? You hear what's up my dummy? You think things of these nature, or what's up my nigga, you know, things of these nature.
What's up, fool?
Yeah, what's up, or now, what's up, dummy? Now, let me first say that. I heard my sister and niece and nephews say, what's up, dummy? How to greet each other. What's up, dummy?
That is so new.
It's new. It's new, and but it's provocative, right? It's profanity, right? Of how they talk, you know, because a person who's really dumb could be offended, right? A person who is highly educated and is labeled as dumb could be offended. But to the two of them, what's up, dummy, is equivalent to, hey, how you doing? What's up, right? So we really are talking about not curse words that are not godly. We're talking about a new level of language that is being adopted in addition to what we've been accustomed to.
Right.
So it comes, and there's, oh man, like my mind is on, there's a comment that I want to wrestle with, but I also want to speak on something because, and I see you, Elder Mike Woolard. I think, you know, my mom and I have this conversation so much. I mean, like, this is a conversation her and I have so much about cussing. And one of the things that I hear a lot of people, especially more conservative people, say is, so are we getting to the place, right, where if we allow these things to happen, are we just allowing what people want to now all of a sudden be okay? Like, where's the line of where we start to go, okay, no, it's just not okay, right? Like, it's cursing, it's, right, like, so now, right, my mom would say, if I'm walking down the street, I don't want to hear those words. And me and her get into it because I'm always like, yeah, but Mike, you give the words the power. You know what I'm saying? Like, you give the words those power, even no matter how they mean it. Because I'm with you, Brendan. Like, if you're in the ghetto, or Mike, if you're in the ghetto, right? Like,
that's our language.
Sometimes that's the language, right? Like, you know, what the F is good with you, bro? You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I'm just shooting it, you know, SHI. You know, like, that's the language, and it's not offensive there.
No.
But the question is,
I think it also speaks to another comment from Sean, where he was saying, you know, is it used for positive or negative? And And like curse words are like any other words in language. They don't have to be negative, but the negative connotation around them, like we assume that when you hear it, it's something negative. And so it's like I listen. I curse. I do it well. I do it like a sailor, you know, in certain communities. But I also like. I think it becomes offensive. For me, it becomes offensive when like I'm in a space where like the majority of people don't. They just not cool with it. Like I don't curse around my mother out of respect. I don't curse around, you know, my elders out of respect. If they cool with it and you know we got that relationship, then we good. But it's also like it's a time and place for it, just like everything. Like there's a time and place for me to put on my professional voice and talk like, you know, I'm a customer service worker. And there's also a time where I'm talking with my G's and it's like, yo, what's good? It's just it's more it's the placement of it, and it might not. Again, I think it's language, and so it's based on communication. If I communicate to you that like, hey, fam, I prefer if you not curse around me, or I prefer if you not like cuss at me, and you continue to do it, then you being offensive. But it's like if we just not, you know, it doesn't have to be, and I think that's one of the connotations around curse words and cursing, profane language that you know, it doesn't always have to be negative. Like I could literally curse my homie out and mean everything in love, and he know that.
Yeah. Lady Miss Nikki says, I completely agree with Brennan's point, which goes deeper into what I mentioned earlier with how you use it. Sean, I know you said to read your whole comment, which I'm trying to figure out which one you mean. I know he says.
But also, I think it's the one I referenced. Also, let's look at the actual word curse words. With that being said, is speaking curse words speaking life or death over someone? Is it positive or negative? Again, we're going into like they were labeled curse words. They aren't necessarily curse words. Like there's no curse attached to those words.
Brandon, I think the problem, and I'm trying to walk the thin line here, as I always try to. The problem that some of our, you know, those who are commenting are having is historically separating curse words where you're trying to articulate versus curse words from a spiritually and churchy point of view. And that's the trouble of us understanding because based off the last comment, if it has power, life, or death, it can be argued that it's still cursing because Jesus cursed the whole city, right? You know, so God cursed, you know, some things. So I'm a little just confused about, we're going to argue the historically community Afrocentric understanding of curse word versus, you know, biblically curse words or cursing, because when we look at cursing, the biblical is full of curse. If you don't believe me, just look at the Moses story of them 10 plagues, right? So we,
I think that's where because, and I think that especially like here in America and with people who are Christian and grew up in Christian homes, like those lines between that cultural reference and that cultural definition and the biblical definition of cursing or the biblical reference of cursing, they've been like intertwined so much that like it's hard to look at it outside of the cultural context and address it in the cultural context, and also like look at cursing, you know, from the biblical context and taking those two separately to address them and look at what they are, because I think they are different. I think they are in this case, and I think that's kind of what I'm saying in response to Sean, is like there's a difference in what we're talking about. Biblical cursing, yes, it's like they can, but I think the curse words that we understand culturally aren't necessarily the same thing as those biblical curses.
That is absolutely correct.
So then go ahead, Mike. What are you about to?
No, there was a comment that someone said. I mean, Jesus called the Pharisees hypocrites, which is a provocative word, and brood of vipers, which is also provocative. And I'm pretty sure that was considered cursing them out back then, and she's absolutely correct.
Listen, y'all can't tell me Jesus tore up the temple and didn't let one off, man. Come on. He said something that wasn't too savory. You ain't just tearing up everything and shoot.
Well, but she's right. That brood of vipers comment, it was considered pretty edgy at the time that was said. When John the Baptist says it, he's like, look, you freaking fools, right? And so because what I always and where I always go with this, and I think it's a conversation again. My mom and I have so much, but I think that and Miss Riley, who's one of my former teachers, she asked the question on YouTube: what are you trying to prove when you use cussing language? But I think like
I'm proving the same exact for a community, for a certain community. I'm proving the same thing that the other community is trying to prove. If okay, for an example, it's about 9 o'clock in the Bahamas. You say good night, not good night because you going to bed. Good night because that's the time of day it is, right? You say, oh, good night, just like how you say good morning, right? Versus a person in the hood, F out of here, right? Means I'm gone. Yeah, I'm gone. So it's really not about trying to prove anything, right? And the reality of the matter is, I would even take it a step further. It's really not about whether you accept it or not. Right, because it's going to be used because that's how we communicate. Now, here's that other problem. It may be becoming more aware, whether it's in church or outside of church. It's on the same level as when text messaging became popular. Right, we was always in our phone, doing this, no longer doing this, and texting now has become very popular. And those who did not like, my grandmama, who's like 90-something years old, who didn't like phones, never text. And she still don't understand texting, right? It's not about proving anything. It's there. And it's how we would communicate. So somebody gonna have to adapt. Right?
I mean, and I think that what has happened and what like the culture and this is something we talked about before has been for church to be so like you assimilate into church and you follow this way, and so because curse words have been labeled as they have historically, we've been taught that these words are just horrible, and I think the challenge happens is like when people, like when you look into it, it's the difference between, some pastors will call each other doc. What's up, doc? Or, and it's like that. And when I talk to my friends, I call them bro. Doc versus bro. Like, and if I call someone who's a doc a bro, it might be offensive to them. And that would be labeled a curse word. It's not necessarily like I think what Michael said earlier, like it's not a difference. It's an alternative. It's literally an alternative. It's a different way of saying something. It's a different way of expressing yourself. And I think if we get that understanding, we can then have a deeper conversation about why curse words were created and how we as a church can provide some healing around this very touchy subject. Like, I don't know if y'all, but I done got popped in the mouth a few times about using a word that ain't that bad.
So let me first say this. I'm not advocating anybody go to church and right. I'm not.
That's not what I'm here to do either. I'm gonna let y'all.
Michael Curtis said that I could cuss, so I'm going
right. I mean,
in the middle of the announcement, somebody start cussing.
In the black church when it's amen, pastor, amen, pastor, you replace it. Say that, shh, You're saying
No. We're not saying that. I'm gonna be clear and join with you in that one. I'm the first signature on that petition that we're not joining that team. But what
Yeah.
I'm saying, what I'm trying to express is we can have a freedom of language and freedom of
and we do.
expression that we don't cause or look at other people in a way because they use a certain type.
I would say growing up in the church and the churches I've served, that is already embedded into the black church, right? Sister Odell and Sister and friends, when they was doing soup kitchen, they was comfortable with each other. You know, they know they go out to eat together, they go shopping together, they go get the white dress, so they know how to each other talk. And for those of us who even walked past, overheard some of the seniors say some words, it got you like they cussing.
They use them well. They know where to put the accent.
It's already embedded into the church. As a matter of fact, if you think I'm lying, this true story. Can't make this up. This person don't have Facebook. At my second church, it was after a meeting. We just had a meeting, and then my wife had came, and so one of the members of the church was talking to my wife and another member about what they was going to do when they leave here. And the church member, while I'm at the vending machine, she said, "Well, my girlfriend invited me to a flea market to buy some shit that I don't need in the church." and they kept on talking. It's not a true story. Trustee open the door, and to get inside the fellowship hall, it's like 6 steps. Hit her pinky toe, and all you heard was shit. You see what I'm saying? So, and then when she realized I was there, she's like, "Oh, excuse me, Pastor, but that hurt." Yeah, so the thing is, it's already in the church, and some pastors really can't lie. You know, if you got one of the members who save and all the way not save at the same time, and you counsel that person, the conversation ain't normal.
No,
right?
Yeah.
That conversation
it's not supposed to be. It's not supposed to be though.
I think that's the thing, right? Like the words really get the power that you give them. Let me say this first. I want to comment on Pastor Jeffrey, who was on with us a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I think that.
Yeah, he says curse words have traditionally been labeled bad because they were profane, abusive. However, curse words alone are not abusive. Nevertheless, there are a lot of phenomena that are profane, such as poverty, racism, sexism, homophobia, etc. All of the above mentioned phenomena have abused way more people than curse words ever will. I just thought that was a really great comment.
You see, I don't like Jeff.
I want to say, if you're watching, please like this, comment, let us know you're here, and then share this on your page, share this with your groups. Listen, I think he's right though. I think, like, you know, curse word. I got a couple of white friends, right? And there's a little bit of a difference in some. I'm not labeling all white people. And some, because I get hate mail. That you comment making white people all the same. No. But one of the churches, and you know, it, like, right in the sanctuary, when she greets, she's like, you know, "What's up? You know, how you been? How you been shooting the shits?" Like, that's her comment. And I'm all like, it took me a moment to get used to it, because in black church, once you hit that door, like, you know, you're not supposed to say those.
You change the lingo.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a
You
real
code switch in church.
Listen, even if you're from the ghetto, you know when you hit them doors, you don't say that. You don't, all cussing was left behind. You know what I'm saying? Else you got everybody else. You gonna get turns with people smacking your mouth. I mean, one just your mouth. It's gonna be other people. But I think what we have to recognize, and this is what I go with, there are words that have double meanings, and I think we have to be careful, because this is where I hate the nitpick. So if you say F-U-C-K, right? what's the difference in you saying that and saying you know, you a fool, you know, or dag, right? Or DAMN and DAG, or SHIT and SHOOT, shit and shoot, right? Like I think that we this is why I don't understand why curse words have gotten so big, because it's like, how you gonna say one thing, but you mean the same thing when you say the other word? It like that's where I get it's that double standard
And
of
that's
like,
that was my problem with it too. That's why I started doing research, because I was like, if I say freak versus the other word, you cool, but I mean the same thing. Like for me, I'm trying to express the same emotions, the same feelings, and but this one word, it means something different to you, and that's where I was. That's why I brought up the example of doc and bro, or you know, sis and mother. You know, it's just the alternative. It's not different. It's an alternative, and like that's where I struggled with it, and it's like I don't curse, and I'm not advocating for everybody to just go out here cursing everybody out and using it willy nilly. Like it's still a time and a place, and still if you use it in the wrong context, you can cause some issues, you know. So like it's still a part of language that we need to know and understand more about and learn about. But what I didn't like as a teen, or what I like when I researched it and found this out, what I didn't appreciate was from the church, and especially from the black church, it's really an assimilation and oppressive mind state to me, to just have everyone follow this one style and form of language or expression without allowing people to express and freely be themselves. And that was my issue with it. I don't believe that. I don't believe in an oppressive God, and I don't believe in an oppressive gospel. And so for me, the church pushing it as this is sin was an issue for me. Can it be sin? Yes, just like everything else we do can become sin, but it's not a sin in itself to me. And that's where I grew to understand and you know, love to engage in these conversations now.
so it's probably good to say this, and I want to make sure we are very clear about this. And also, Helen Ellis is watching. She said when we were talking about the difference of the two words, she said it just sounds cleaner. But
that's literally why they started, though. Remember, that's why curse words started. Was one was cleaner and more acceptable versus the other one, which was more direct and like you just got to take it for it is what it is. And is that bad?
It's like, you know, my father say, when you're writing a grant, you cut straight to the chase. You know, you ain't got time to be fluffed and just cut straight to the chase. And for some people, cutting straight to the chase is offensive to them. Like, wait a second, but wait a second, move up to it. It's like in college. This is a true story. First time I ever lived in the same space as a person that didn't look like me, right? Another fellow. And you know, getting to know each other. And he asked me, did I have any pets? And at that time, I didn't have any animals. And you know, I'm getting to know him. I said, well, do you have any pets? He said, yeah, I have a bitch and a pussy at my house, and you had it for years. Right? And if no, and if I didn't know any better, right? I paused for like a cat and a female dog. He's like, yeah, you.
It's just expressive.
It's true, because there are people who, you know, you're right. Like now I will say, I have some friends who are, and you can even say they're very classy or very upscale people, whatever you want to say, who they definitely, when they're talking about their dogs, like, and they're dog lovers, they are very clear. Like they always go, no, I gotta go back to the house because I gotta take care of my bitches. Like that is exactly how he talks. And you're right. I remember when I first started hearing it, going, like, okay, you know. But and he's
fam, listen, fam. If you say that in the hood, everybody in the hood laughing at you. You like, oh, you got the fam. You got you. Like, you know, you the man. But it's like it is literally just a different context where it has a whole different meaning.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
True
it's
story. Because he's actually foreign. He's not from America, but that's
Mhm.
how he refers to his pets. Like this every single time. um, I want to say this. What I want to make sure that we do get is that I want to be clear on this point. So, are we on agreement that the Bible never necessarily addresses cuss words as we know it or as we use them?
well, there's a lot of things the Bible don't address, right? The Bible the Bible don't address that after a person get a divorce, who take the kids. The Bible don't address that, right? Um, there's a lot of things that the Bible do not address. But what the Bible does address is how we treat each other and how we treat God. That's the whole premise. That's the whole premise, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I do something that harms you in any way, I've sinned against my brother, right, and sinned against God. Because ultimately, to be in relationship with God is to be in relationship with your brother, and to be in relationship with your brother is to be in relationship with your God. So no matter who you offend first, you offend the whole system. So I don't. So to answer your question, no, the Bible doesn't address curse words. The Bible address how we relate to each other. And if I relate to you on a more proactive level where we can communicate and you're not offensive, then that's different. But now, if my profanity offends a person that doesn't use it, and that could be harmful to each other after great conversation. So again, although the Bible does not specifically spell out some things, I think that leads us the author to really discover how we like to be treated with one
Yeah, yeah. I think you're right. I think so. So did I have a question? So to me, that what it sounds like is right. Like it's a respect for the community
another.
of people that are utilizing the words at the time. And I think here's oh man, the scripture is evading my mind. But you all remember there's a scripture where the disciples come back to Jesus and they say, "Look, they're over there and they're doing things, in
Yeah,
your name."
thunder.
You know what I'm saying? And Jesus looks at because they're trying to get him in trouble, but Jesus looks
Yeah.
and says, "Well, here's the thing: are they bringing more people to me? And it, and then what's the problem? Because they're doing it and they're still working in my favor. So I look at it and very close to that same place because look, if there are certain people that don't use the terminology, then fine. The Bible never addresses it, but if that's the way you choose to believe, I think that then fine, choose to believe it. And then I think on the side of the folks who do use the language, then you simply say, okay, you know what? When I'm around you, I won't use that language. But I think then for the people who do use the language, then the same standard has to be relevant.
Yes.
If I'm the people who do not use that language, then when I'm around you, I might not use it, but I'm not going to condemn you because that's how you operate. That is your community, and I'll respect your community and just let you all do that when you're there. Right? In my house, there's a rule. In your house, there are rules. We follow those rules, and we respect each other for it, but we don't go and condemn each other for it. And I think that's the place to me that we got to get to.
Agreed.
That's real.
This is.
That's the yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say this is old saying that says we give too much credit to what the Bible don't say, and give too less credit to what the Bible is saying. And I think possibly arguing whether cursing is a sin is is crazy. But I can tell you what is also offensive and provocative: being called a sinner.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
That's that's provocative, and you can ask any person who does not understand the language of what it means to be unsaved, but yet can be offended when you call them a sinner because they don't speak the same Christological language that you speak. That's provocative.
Yeah. I think it's important to have these kind of conversations because here's the deal. I think in all honesty, and though we do a lot of times say, right, like we can definitely talk about the issues of the institutional church. There are many issues with the institutional church. But what I think we have to avoid too is the false narrative of things that aren't necessarily true to begin with. So for example, when people will say, well, you can't be a Christian because you over there cursing like a seller.
Mm-hmm.
We got to start snatching power back from those type of comments because those comments don't necessarily hold weight.
Right.
But I think, unfortunately, where we do get wrong is that Brendan, you mentioned this earlier, the institutional church has allowed that type of rhetoric to go on for so long without defining that cussing ain't necessarily a thing that can be proven to be wrong, that we've allowed that narrative to be something that holds us accountable to something we should not be held accountable to, if that makes
And
sense, right?
and that's
So
where
like,
that's where I think we can cause each other to sin, and sometimes because and then it becomes something that we put a different emotion behind using the words. There's a different reason. Now I'm using it out of rebellion because you said I can't use it, and rebellion, like we know what that is, and that's different than me just using the word.
No,
absolutely.
I agree. I agree. I just think that now this is me having to defend the church now. um,
Absolutely.
I do. I'll get some brownie points for this one. There is still a certain level of
They took them
living.
all away from folks, so you got a lot to earn back, bro.
There's still a standard of living in how we communicate within
Mhm.
our discourse community with and to the world, whether
Mhm.
it's using or not using profane language. However, we use language of grace, right? But there is still a level of communication that
Mhm.
that is held within the church, and I think that what you are trying to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that it is okay to use that safe language, but don't say that that's the only language that a church person could be able to.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. It's not, and that's the thing. I think the church, and we've talked about this even with with our hip hop conversation. The church I think is used to its way being the only way in preaching that and moving in that, and I think that part of what we've kind of been forced to learn is that there isn't one way to do this stuff. Like there isn't one way to have church. We learned a whole new different way in 2020.
Yeah,
Is that like there's
Yeah.
more than one way to do these things that we do, and I think that again, like we said, I'm not promoting or saying that every pastor or any pastor or anybody need to just go up in church and start cussing folks out. I still like absolutely there is a reverence and there is a language that we use within church and within ceremony or worship. And but I can be honest, like there's been some times where I've been upset with God and I didn't let a few of them fly, because I was that's what I was feeling at the moment. It was like that was the expression that I needed God to understand, like no, like I need to be direct in what I'm telling you.
right. And back to my Babel towel comment, right? God
Mhm,
still understand all of those languages,
mhm,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So no matter what language you speak,
mhm.
I believe that God is so gracious that God can understand it, whether it's cursing, whether it's correct English, whether it's Ebonics, that God is a God of communication. Now, you
Mhm.
don't like how I communicate with God, that's up to you. But again, it is a art of communicating in most places.
Lady Nikki, she has a point. She says, to Pastor Mike's point, that speaks exactly to the scripture that says, if eating certain foods offend your brother, then don't eat them in front of them. Um, I'm kind of scrolling back. She had a moment where Pastor Mike, I think you were talking about things that the Bible does not address. And she says the Bible doesn't address pedophilia either. Um, that's a conversation that I actually think we might tap into a little bit next week on age and some things.
So
Um,
I think
I'm glad you brought that up. Then there's another conversation kind of happens. Elder Mike, but profanity isn't cursing someone, but disrespecting them. I can speak profanity to you and not speak cursings amongst you. To which Lady Nikki says, I think it's disrespecting when you purposely being disrespectful when using it. So there's just some great points, I think, in the dialogue and in the chat that are having. Let me ask you guys this question. So we have sort of understood that there is just this dynamic of some people will do it, some people won't. What about kids, right? So, you know, how do you then train your kids, and what's the appropriate age for them to sort of be able to speak how they want to speak? Like if little Jew, all of a sudden, who is now what? Jew's 11?
Don't rush that. Yeah, he about to be though.
He's 10.
And Mike, he said, "Don't rush it. You fine."
Yeah, don't rush that.
And we got a picture, I think, of Mike and his kids, who are just amazing and adorable, man. Mike's a father. Mike, how old are your kids?
One and getting ready to be 9.
One and getting ready to be 9. So 1 and 8. So let me ask this question: when is there an appropriate? Oh, there they go. Look at him. Look at him, father.
Beautiful.
When is the point that? When is that point that you hear them like talking to their friends and it's like, oh, nah, you won't believe it. That's to happen today. Like, is that ever okay?
Oh man.
Listen.
Look. Now the whole conversation switched up.
Listen,
Switched up everything. So yeah, you go first.
For me, right? It's equivalent to how the church mothers will cuss all together in the soup kitchen behind the closed doors, right? Growing up in the church, I would never known, right? And so it's similar to my, let's say 9-year-old who and his kids use the same language, right, in their little discourse community, and I don't know, but to hear it, right? You have to tell me what you mean. You have to tell me what you mean. I mean, what did you mean by that, right? Because shit versus poop is 2 different things, right? Mm-hmm. So if let's just use an example. If I hear my son say shit, right, and he just fell, right? So clearly, ouch wasn't good enough to equate to the pain that he felt. Right. So I want to know, what did you mean by when you said that? Because contingent upon what you meant, it's contingent upon which group you can say and not say that around. So now I'm teaching you how to be bilingual here. You can't say that around me. but the other discourse community, right? Okay, I hear what that means, but let me teach you another language, right?
Let me teach you something that's gonna save you, young man. No, but that's it's funny because I had an incident where I came home, and I don't have any kids, but I got nieces and nephews, which I love, and I had drove home. It was about a 16-hour drive. Got there, fell asleep on the couch, and I was waking up. Came up to you, she said, "Uncle Brennan, I'm gonna F you up." I said, "What?" Like I was just like, and like instantly, that switch hit in my head. Like, what you mean? Like I was like, we about to fight. And I was like, where your mama at? Go get your mama. Tell your mama we got to fight. But really, I think it's more of a where I've been now, and even since that incident, just having conversations with my nieces and nephews, of course, under the care and guise of their parents, but just having a conversation with them about language and about what words to use in what context, in what places. Like, listen, don't tell your grandma that, because she might knock you in the next week. Like that. Don't let that slip. Don't let that slip around your grandma. I'm giving you a little grace because this your first time, But I mean, and I think what that also helps them do is become better decision makers. Like if we take the time to teach them and help them understand the differences in the language, or the differences in the alternatives of language, and when to express it, they are better decision makers about how they handle themselves even in those situations. So even if your son is in that situation and he stubbed his toe in church, he might not use that same word in this situation because he's gonna make a better decision based off where I am.
I love what I love. So Helen Ellis, she says, "Do as I say, not as I do."
Yeah.
What I love about Kalila is
It's harmful.
what I love about Kalila is she says SpongeBob said they are sentence enhancer. And Elder Mike comes back and he says, and that's why I don't watch SpongeBob.
Yo, shout out to the comment section. Yo,
I love it.
it's lit.
Listen, I the next couple of weeks are going to be amazing, man. You know, this has been a fruitful conversation, or has it? I don't know. But
very much. No. I mean,
no, I'm just joking. Go ahead.
Oh no. I was just saying, no, it was very fruitful.
Yeah, it's been fruitful. I think the reason why I love these conversations, y'all, is because this is the conversation that I think we often don't get to have in the traditional institution of church. But it's so funny because as I met with, you know, I'm pastoring over the bridge, and I met with my team the other day, and one of the things that I heard them talking about, and also, what's the guy who just had the single that dropped? Who had he's the top one of the top gospel singles right now. I can't remember his name. Kelvin. Dang, I cannot remember his name. But
I'm drawing a smooth blank with you, bro.
I'm not good at names.
Yeah, it's okay. It's
What's
okay.
What's the song? What's the song?
Not Kirk Franklin, but thanks, Sean, for trying to help me out. It's the young guy. He's 18. He's got a gospel song out right now.
Kevin Dawson?
No. Is it not?
I
cannot. Anyway, it'll come back. Keontae Gavin. Okay. Thank you, Mike. Keontae Gavin. I was watching him, and I was with my group at the bridge, and one of the things we talked about is we're talking about the community coming back together. Mm-hmm. Keontae said it on something. He was on the show that they do the singing, and the guy said, he said, "What is the thing that the church is missing right now?" And Keontae said, "Well, for those of us who are younger, and it's the younger generation," he said, "You know, I like preaching." He said, "But I think there are some times where I just want to have conversation." And that resonated with me. And then as I talked about coming back in terms of the bridge, my folks, we just had this meeting yesterday, and they were like, you know, yeah, we want to come back, but I think we just want some things that are different. We want us to have some times where we're just able to have some conversation and not have to feel like it's a traditional service. And so Kalila said, "Black people, I don't know his name, but I know the face." Exactly.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's why these conversations are so important, because there are a community of people that are believers and non-believers that are looking to not just be preached to, but to have the conversation and say, yeah, like, why is cussing so bad? Why am I not allowed to cuss? Or why do people shun me when I cuss? Or where does that come from? We are no longer in the place and the time where we as the church can be like, well, it's because I said so, right? Or because, you know, because we just don't do it here. We have to be able to have these conversations at a deeper level in order to really reach the people that I think exist in this day and time. Period.
Yo, so I agree with you. I do agree with you. However, I gotta defend the church, right? Because
get your brownie points back. Get your brownie points back, bro.
He really is. But let me say this: I'm not coming against the church in general. I am actually just giving a nugget as to how I think we can grow. So let me say that I'm not talking.
I hear you. But church is not just conversation. It's also relationship, right? But if you are trying to reach the people that the traditional church has not done in so long, what is your goal when you do reach them? Because our goal, the traditional church now, goal is salvation. We just don't want the alcoholics, the pimps, and the prostitutes to come. We want them to come and be saved, and not just to have conversation, right? So what I think I'm hearing you say is that the end goal is the same, but how we go about it or perform it is different, because that's the problem you will have with the traditional church and your new method. Okay, you got the crackheads and the pimps. We ain't gonna keep talking about
But
drugs.
is they saved?
Are they saved?
It ain't even are they? Is they saved?
Is they saved? Because because there's still a standard. We all want to get to heaven, right? And I will argue, and I know we probably out of time, is that the black church have always been inclusive, right? The doors of the church are what? Are open. That's now whatever that look like, the doors may be open, but the hearts may be closed, right? but to get inside the church is it has always been inclusive. But when you get them, we want you to be saved. Do you know Jesus in a part of the sense? Like, you gonna die and go to hell, or you gonna
yeah. And I think I agree with both of y'all. I think it is. I think it's like the conversation piece is an alternative for some people who might not listen to the most fire sermon they ever heard in their life, might not do nothing to them, but sitting and having a conversation with someone who is Christian, or with even a pastor, or with people who are struggling with Christianity. It might help them to understand, like, all right, fam, I'm not in this by myself. I can get some questions answered. I'm not the only one that's confused by this scripture. I think it builds that sense of community with people sometimes, and helps people to, one, to be a part of the family, to become saved. I think I think it is just kind of an alternate door to get into the kingdom. if we go that route. Yeah.
And I will say this, I don't think that is a one-size-fits-all approach that you can ever take. I do believe, right, like, there are multiple ways of spreading the gospel, multiple ways of bringing people to salvation. I think it's all about, Michael said it best, relationship. It's all about making sure you know how to foster a relationship. And then once you have the relationship, understanding the best way to reach those people. Every kid's not the same. Every adult is not the same. Every person is not the same.
Right.
But it's about learning the people you're serving, that you're called to, and understanding the best way to reach those people that you're serving.
Right. I agree.
Kalana says, God knew who he made me to be. Sometimes, shanana na 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 na, don't do it like sugar, honey, iced tea.
The sugar, honey, and the ice.
Listen, I want to give a good shout out to everybody that was on, our regulars, our everyday host, Brother 3J. Listen, don't think 3J was not a part of the conversation. 3J's been working on something, and I'll share about that in a minute. Brother Brennan, I was going to say Pastor Brennan. Brother Brennan, who has been on, who was always with us. Reverend Michael. Reverend Michael Carrington, we appreciate your presence today, brother.
Absolutely, bro.
No problem.
Yeah, we hope that in the near future you will consider coming back. The doors are always open to have you. If you're in the Baltimore area, please go check him out. He is a dynamic, fire preacher who knows how to deliver a word, and who knows how to shake up the table. Miss Willa.
He sound like he got that preacher voice. He got that good black preacher voice. He sound like he got it in.
I don't think so. Baby came back again. So, hello.
Look at him. Bow tie. What's up, man? What's his name, Mike?
I'm C3. Or same name as mine. Yeah.
Okay, Michael the third. Got you. What's up, man? What's up, little man? Listen, we want to just give a shout out to also the fact that, and I saw you, Miss Willa Canard, who said, remember, we are to be in the world, but not of the world. And Miss Willa Canard, that is a deep conversation to be had. because what we
Mhm.
call the world ain't always the world. But I do
It ain't.
appreciate your comment. Brother Sean Michael Wilson, great conversation. Miss Miss Nikki, who is always holding down in the comments. We appreciate you down in Georgia, correct?
Yo, ATL, shout
Down in
it.
good old ATL. Miss Butterfly, Kalala, we glad to have you. And listen, we just want to let you know we did drop a new single. 3J and I dropped a new single today. It is called For Your Love. If you get a chance, we would love for you to go check that out. I'm gonna drop the link for you to stream in the comments, and you can go check that out. Please check it out. Save it in your playlist. If you make playlists, please save it in your playlist. And yes, Brother Sean Michael Wilson, I see what you said. Listen, we are teaming up. I don't even know that I've had a chance to talk to Brennan about it. I briefly spoke to 3J about it. Pastor Mike, just good for you to know. The Well is now teaming up with the state's attorney's office here in Prince George's County. And we're working on a campaign to stop the violence. And there is a huge event here in Maryland, Prince George's County that we're putting on the 1st of June. PG County is taking back its streets. So if you're in the PG County area, please look out for the flyer that we will post on our social media pretty soon. But June 1st, save the date, 5:30 to 7:30, we're going to be over at the City of Praise. Some of you all knew it as the former Jericho. And it's going to be an amazing event. There are going to be possibly some celebrities, some heavy influencers, some politicians, maybe even some go-go folks. So Brendan, you might want to think about coming on up because I know how much.
Listen, I might have to make it, bro. I might have to make it, bro. For the go-go music alone, I might have to make the trip.
It'll be dope. So I do want to celebrate the partnership with the state's attorney's office we have. It's an amazing thing to have. And again, go check out the new single For Your Love by 3J and myself.
So I'm gonna apologize right now to the people for not being as active and into the conversation. I'm actually sitting here working on the video. No, seriously, but I'm actually sitting here working on one out of the 2 videos For Your Love. And it was actually supposed to be presented to you guys today, but so much stuff happened today, we weren't able to throw it out to y'all.
Miss Nikki was on your top, bro. Miss Nikki was on your top. She was like, "You mighty silent in this one."
Yeah, I saw it coming.
The reason I'm silent because we got this release, we just released For Your Love again, and I'm over here working on the video. So when hopefully next week y'all will actually get one of the videos, and then when we get up with recording and media, that's when y'all see the actual video.
In other words, Miss Nikki, don't go too heavy on him, okay?
Yeah,
Don't call him and say, "What were you doing?"
I'm working, so I'm sorry.
Listen.
After y'all done listening to For Your Love, man, y'all got to make sure tonight it's a hip hop holiday. My boy, Cold World dropping the off season tonight, so I mean, we up late nights listening to that one. We might be up till 2 in the morning to digest them tracks, man.
That's dope.
I'm gonna be doing that all night.
Elder Mike Willis said, "We'll let 3J slide today, but not next week."
Oh no, I'm on next week. It's gonna be done. Everything's gonna be done, presented to y'all for next week. So I'm in it next week. I'm sorry.
Listen, we ask that you pray about partnering with us in any way that you can. If that means partnering with us by sharing this to your social media sites, sharing the link to your friends and your family, we ask you to do that. Listen, you can always partner with us by investing in it with us too. Your time, your finances. If you want to invest in finances, well, you see it right there on the screen. You can text to give the number 84321, and just like the illustration there, you just put however much you want to donate. The bottom of $100, $50, $5. We would really appreciate you taking the time to invest in a ministry like ours. Also, you can go to our website, which is www.org, and click the last tab, give. You'll see that there information about us. Also, you can follow us on our social media, both Instagram and Facebook, at Encounter the Well on each one of our social media platforms. Listen, it's been a great night. We've got some great, crazy topics coming up. We're going to do in Taboo. We're going to talk about the N-word. The N-word. That's going to be a heavy conversation.
I'm getting in that one.
And then we also I'm going to talk about. Listen, Pastor Mike was like, "Yeah,
I
I
be
don't
teaching
know what
Bible
we're
study.
going to do."
Yeah, I
I'm
be
in
teaching
that.
Bible.
He said, "I'll
I
be
gotta go.
teaching Bible study."
We got some amazing conversations this week. Mike, Pastor Mike, real quick, where can they find you and how can they follow you if they want to be a part of your church, if they want to follow you on social media and just see all of the encouraging things you're doing?
Oh well, my just simple Michael Carrington on Facebook, on Twitter, Carrington Live. Church page is Eastern United Methodist Church. If you want to ever visit us, whenever we can get back into church fully, it is 15. What's our new address? I'm sorry, 5115 East Harford Road, 21214.
Dope. I appreciate that, Brother Michael. Well, listen, and also a shout out to Amplify for having us on as always. It's been a great, I'm going to say, heaven of a night. Some folks
Heaven.
might say hell of a night.
There you go,
I think
code
I can get
switching
away with it on
again.
this
There
one.
you go, code switching.
Right. I think I might get away with it on this particular encounter. It was a hell of a night, guys. I really appreciate it. Until next time, we love you, and there's nothing we can do about it. TC, and we'll see you next Thursday.
Love.
Thank you.
Listen, that was amazing, guys. That was amazing.